something. I was closing the door. What did you say already? Could you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Who's not the neighbor that I put on, that I said on my poster?
Okay. And why did you bring up, did you tell us his name?
He works in the army. I know he was in Vietnam.
And do you know what he did in the Army? What was his job when he was in the Army?
Pilot.
Pilot, but a special kind of pilot, I think. Remember? What kind of airplane? I believe he's a colonel, is that correct?
Yeah.
Did he have special missions that he did? Oh. Would you like him to share a little bit about himself?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning.
Samuel, and good morning, and it's really nice to be here. This is my first time at your school, and it's a beautiful school. I have to say, it's one of the nicest schools I've ever seen in my life, and I've had a long life. Samuel and I have become really good friends, and he's my best buddy in the neighborhood. I especially like the way Samuel knows how to drive. So I have a little electric car, and Samuel has taught my 3-year-old grandson, who's about this tall, to drive. There's only one thing wrong with a 3-year-old. He
Doesn't listen.
He doesn't listen, and he just knows the gas. He doesn't know this. So Samuel sits next to him, and his name is the same as my name. His name is Winslow, too. So Samuel sits next to Winslow and tells Winslow to steer, but Winslow just does this. Now, the good news is there's a little limit to how fast the car will go. We'll just go 3 miles an hour, so I can catch them. If I take the limit off, it will go 6, I'll never catch them. But Samuel's been very patient with Winslow, and we went way down the block behind the school, and Samuel tried his darndest for 1 hour to teach Winslow to steer, and Winslow just doesn't get it yet. But I'm hopeful that Winslow one day will get it. But one thing I've learned about children all my life, and because I was lucky enough to fly in the Air Force, I'm going to show this to your teacher. The last time I did this was in Turkey, and I talked to a bunch of children about flying, and I just read their letters again, and they were really nice, and they really enjoyed the stories about flying. And I'm going to do the same thing again, but this just happens to be 45 years later. So it's really exciting for me to do this. While I do it, I want Samuel to wear this because this is the scarf that I used to wear in the airplane when I was flying. It was my squadron's color. And I used to wear that. And then this is the patch that we would wear on our shoulder when we would fly this airplane. And then this is the airplane that we flew. And this airplane is the first airplane in the world, the entire world, that could fly faster than the speed of sound in level flight. It's the only airplane in the world at the time that could go faster, that could travel faster than sound in level flight. So I was lucky to fly it, and I flew it a lot. I flew it in Spain, I flew it in Vietnam, I flew it in Florida, I visited people in California with it, I flew over Turkey, I flew over France, I flew over the world in that little airplane with this little patch on, and I wore this. And I told the children about that, and then they wrote back. But what I thought you might be interested in is my version of how an airplane flies. So I'm going to show you an airplane that just about is the same as a regular airplane, and some of the parts move, and when I move the parts, maybe you can understand how it flies. but I'll need you to spread out like in a circle, and I'm gonna put the airplane
No
on the
one sit
center.
on this side, everybody sit over there, okay, so we can have this spot open, so everyone would be able to see. So we may have to, that's perfect, you guys in the back can sit up on your knees. Campbell, you might want to, yeah, there you go.
When I saw it on the table, I was like, what the heck is that? Are we learning about airplanes?
Now this is a little airplane that actually flies, and I can do some things with it that will let you see what makes it move, and maybe you can better understand how it flies. I've flown this airplane about 20 times, and that's why all the scratches are on the airplane. Sometimes it doesn't land exactly right. But the way an airplane flies, when it starts to move and it starts to go, the first thing that happens is wind goes over the wings. And then when wind goes over the wings, it creates lift. And then the airplane goes up in the air. And people learned about that first about 100 years ago, and they learned about it in the United States. And the first airplane to fly was in France, and it was the United States. There's some competition there, but pilots started off flying airplanes more than 100 years ago. And then in this airplane, it'll do some things that will be the same thing that an airline does when you fly in an airplane. So how many have flown in a big airplane? Everyone. And how many have flown in a little airplane? That's great. Private airplane, yeah. Yeah, that's great.
My dad except when I don't like math, there's no
Right.
math, but it was not happy with us because we were going in the same direction.
That's great, that's great. Isn't it neat to look out the window and see another airplane? And you can see a lot of things from an airplane. But the way airplanes go is the pilot has a stick in the airplane. And the stick is exactly like this stick. And when the pilot wants to go up, he pulls back on the stick. And then look what happens when he pulls back on the stick. When he pulls back on the stick, this elevator goes up. Go ahead.
Those parts, those little flaps on the wings.
Yes.
And back there, they go up to make the airplane to go up.
Exactly right. Now, this, the one in the back, makes it go up and down. It only makes it go up and down, see? And so when this one in the back goes like this, watch what the airplane does. The airplane, when it goes like this, the airplane goes like that. It goes up. And when it goes like this, it goes down. These are called elevators. Just like, and the way to remember that is the elevator up and the elevator down. So this is up, so the pilot sits like this and then pulls back on this and makes it go up and down. Here, you try it. Up, down, and then go down. The other way. Push it up. That's down. Okay? Down, up, and down. Exactly right. All right. Now, if the pilot wants to go right or left, he just pushes the same stick. Instead of up and down, he goes right, and that makes this wing go down like this, or left, and that makes the wing come up like this, so that the airplane rolls. It's a little bit different than a car. It doesn't just turn like this. It rolls and then it turns. So when an airplane turns, it doesn't just turn like this. You'll notice in an airline, it'll roll and then it'll start turning. Now the neat thing about little airplanes like this is when you push the stick all the way over, it'll roll like this. corkscrew, and you've seen, has anyone seen the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds or the Red Arrows? Do you know where the Red Arrows are from? England. They're really advanced. They have 16 airplanes. The Navy and the Air Force have 6 airplanes. So they fly and they roll, and it's all done with this little stick right here. Now there's one other thing I haven't talked, there's only one other function that I haven't talked about. And what other thing does an airplane need to go? That. And how do you suppose that goes? What do you suppose makes that go? What's that?
The wing.
The propeller, the engine. Well, it's complicated because there's 2 different ways. Older airplanes had a propeller, and then sometime they decided that an airplane could go a lot faster if they took the propeller away, and then they just put hot gas through the airplane. But in either case, the control to make it go faster and slower is the throttle, and that's the same as a gas pedal, except in an airplane, it's not done with your foot, it's done with your hand. So when you push the throttle forward a little bit, it'll make the wind go over the wing. So when the wind goes over the wing, it creates lift.
Let go.
And then, if you want to go really fast, and look at the airplane's trying to go.
Make it fly, hurry up.
Well,
We could do it outside.
we could take it outside, but there are many tall trees around here. And if you took it outside,
That's horrifying.
but there are parks around here that you can take this airplane to fly. And then the things that make it fly are inside.
You took up the pilot.
Inside is a little radio, and that's to take place of the pilot. Instead of the pilot, there's a little radio. And now what's happening to airplanes is the newer airplanes, guess what they don't have?
What? Pilot.
Pilots! Who said that? That's great. The new airplanes fly without a pilot. But a pilot has to fly an airplane, so where would that pilot be? Go ahead.
Me or him?
You.
Okay. Well, probably like, if it was in the Navy, they'd be like on the ship, probably
Yes,
controlling
yes.
it like a remote control.
Right.
At a base, if it was
Right.
on the ground,
Right?
controlling it underneath. Or like underneath the ship.
Right? And here's the amazing thing. I bet not many people know this. Go ahead.
With remote control?
With remote control. So the pilots with the remote controls can be behind a computer, and in the United States and in England and now in France, the pilots are in another country. So the pilots flying our airplanes that are thousands of miles from here, halfway around the earth, are in Las Vegas, Nevada. But they're pilots, and they still wear scarves. Now, I don't think they're as happy as pilots like me, because they're in a room and they're controlling an airplane that's 15,000 miles away on the other side of the earth. But they are pilots, and that's what's happening now. So pretty soon, I think, this pilot, during your lifetime sometime, this pilot will go away. But I don't think anyone here wants to fly in an airplane like that, do you? No. You want someone in front of the airplane driving, and you want him to be what? Responsible. Responsible. You want him to be in the airplane. You want him to be part of it. Go ahead.
I have a toy Blue Angel.
You do?
Yeah.
And what airplane do the Blue Angels fly?
They're Navy.
They're Navy, and they're blue and yellow. And what's the name of the airplane? Navy flies an F-18, and the difference between Navy airplanes and Air Force airplanes are the Navy airplanes land where? Go ahead.
Sometimes they could land like on a ship. Sometimes they do.
Yes.
On their
On a ship, and the ship is called an aircraft carrier. And the airplane is called an F-18. And the Navy has, the United States Navy has 10 aircraft carriers, and the British Navy has 2, and the French have 1. And that's all the aircraft carriers that I know about. But they're amazing, amazing things. And so that's the Navy demonstration team, and then the Air Force demonstration team is called the Thunderbirds. And one of the airplanes the Thunderbirds flew was this airplane. And I think it was the best show that they ever had. But the new show that they have with F-16s is really good. But this airplane made a lot of noise and had a lot of smoke come out of it, and it's fun to watch. Now, any other questions about flying? Because I know a lot about flying.
Would they, in the airplane, like that one, is it like not like that control? Is it just like up to against the front of it?
Yeah, it's these controls right here, these same controls are right near the pilot's hands. So you have, in one hand you have the throttle. So when you want to go faster, you go like this. And when you want to go up, you go like that. So when you fly, you go up, down, fast, slow. And then if you want to go upside down, you just go like that, and the airplane turns upside down. Yes?
Did the plane flew have cloud cover?
Yes, yes. Usually you fly above the clouds. And on a cloudy day, it's always amazing. In England, we would take off in the rain, in the snow. It seems always to be cloudy in England, and we would take off. But in a few seconds, you'd pop out, and it'd be a bright, sunny sky, and your mood would change because it was kind of rainy and cold and glum, and all of a sudden you're in a nice airplane that you can see out a lot, and you pop above the clouds, and it's spectacular. It's really beautiful. And you can see the mountains popping through the clouds, and you can see the airplanes going by. It's very beautiful. You can see things just like from a mountain or an airplane or top of the building that are much different because you see down and you see a lot of things at once. It's very, very, it's a lot of fun. Yes?
Do you know? Well, since my dad's a pilot, I've been in his plane, but I know one reason to wear the headphones in one of the small planes to communicate, but is there another reason?
Yes, 2 reasons. The reason in an airplane like this, they have the helmet on is to communicate because you can talk through the microphone. They have a microphone right here, and then you listen to the people on the ground and you hear. But also, in an airplane like this that doesn't have a lot of insulation, it's pretty noisy sometimes, and it keeps the noise out. So it's much more comfortable on a long flight, just like if you're on an airplane and you're going to London or you're going to Hong Kong. You see a lot of people with headphones on or an iPod. You just listen to music, so it just blocks everything out. Yes?
When I went to Greece, all I did was watch movies.
Yeah, and that makes the time pass because it's great. It's just like in a car when you have a DVD playing back. It's makes if you have a long trip and sometimes you get bored, you watch the screen. Now the pilot, the different thing about pilots now, pilots have like 6 or 7 color screens in front of them. They have one screen for the motors, and another screen for the fuel, and another screen for the electrics, and another screen for the hydraulics, another screen for the navigation. And then through the window, when they look outside, they have all the instruments that are just projected outside. So they don't have to look down, they can just look for other airplanes and things in the sky. And the numbers for the airplane and how much fuel they're using and where they are in little green numbers outside. And that's really a nice thing to have. Some of the airplanes that I flew had that, and it was really nice because you didn't have to look down, you just looked straight ahead where you're going, and all the numbers were out there.
Any other
Now-
questions about flying and how long or what he did in the Army?
Yes.
Can we go fly outside?
I wish we could, but you know, what you need for this airplane, you need a flat space. And there are no flat spaces around here, so we wouldn't be able to do it now.
Remember when Kareem brought his airplane in and they got stuck in the tree?
Helicopter.
The helicopter, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's smaller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's look how large that
Did a
is.
tiny plane like that on a long trip, and you had to go to the bathroom?
Well, I can tell you because I used to do that. So this airplane, I flew this airplane from Georgia in the United States. I flew it to Madrid. So the flight was 8 hours and 30 minutes. And so they have like a little special bathroom in the airplane, and you just go to the bathroom in the airplane, and it's like the astronauts. It's very easy to do, and it's really fast. But sometimes you do that, but just in an emergency.
But who will take your spot while you go to the bathroom?
Well, see, the thing is, the different thing about an airplane like this or this is there's only one of you, so you learn to do a lot of things with buttons, and so you can.
Is there like autopilot or something that it flies through the bathroom?
Well, that's a great question. Was there an autopilot? This airplane didn't have an autopilot. So you learned to do more things at once. So you did some things with this hand and some things with this hand, and you did them real fast, and you learned to do everything. You knew where everything was. You didn't have to look. But now, all the airplanes have autopilots, and that's really nice. The Navy airplanes, the F-18, has an autopilot on it that'll take you right to the boat, all the way to the bottom. So you can have your eyes closed, push the button, and that airplane will find the boat and sit down on it. Now, the pilots don't like to do that. Would you like to do that?
No, because what if it's just broke?
Every once in a while, an autopilot will just go bonkers,
Just go somewhere else.
go somewhere else. So you have to be there to grab it. And that's why, in your lifetime, you will always insist on having a pilot in your airplane. You won't want a person to be on the ground.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Carter?
What happens if people get sick on the plane?
Well, if you get sick on the airplane and you're the only pilot, you just learn to control it, and still you have to keep going. The nice thing is that in these little airplanes, it'll only last a little while. So they fly maybe 2 hours, so you can get right back down, and then you can get better on the ground. But if you get really sick, it wouldn't be a good thing. So the pilots that fly these airplanes, they have a doctor in the classroom that they work in. They have a doctor right over there. We had a doctor, and the doctor would check you every day. And if he thought you looked sick, you didn't fly.
Well, what did we say? We do have our community meeting, so I hate that we cut this so short. They're enjoying it so much. What do we say to Mr. Reader for joining us this week? And to Samuel for bringing him in to share. Thank you. We've learned so much about flying. And
Thank
you guys
you.
know a lot about flying too, I didn't realize.
And
Great
I
job.
want to say a special thanks to my buddy Samuel for inviting me to your school. It's been so nice. You had such great questions, and you have such great experience, and you have such great teachers. It's so nice to be here. Thank you very
Well,
much.
if we didn't get a chance to share or ask our question, maybe we could write him a letter and then send it with Samuel, and then he can maybe answer our questions. All right, now, I need my line leader and door holders quietly